It's a modern-day race to the sky, a scramble to construct Toronto's tallest skyscraper. Two separate megaprojects located within just 3 kilometers of each other are sprinting toward the finish line in what can only be described as a Canadian construction marathon. At the starting line is One Bloor West, touted as a unique, one-of-a-kind building putting Canada on the architectural map. Alongside it stands Pinnacle International Sky Tower, marketed as the tallest residential tower in Canada. Although neither project has completed its construction phase, both have spent years vying for pole position. And let's be clear, these towers aren't just tall, they are super tall. Soaring above 300 meters, each building promises to be a remarkable achievement on its own. But when you add in the thrill of competition, the excitement is just undeniable. In a remarkable twist of fate, these projects are being built simultaneously. Their rivalry echoes the competitive spirit of Depression-era Manhattan during the frantic development of the Chrysler and Manhattan Co. buildings. A century from now, Toronto's skyline is going to be reshaped by its newest skyscrapers. Both sides are eager to be the first to claim the title, crowning themselves as the local and overall super tallest building. One Bloor West, aka the One. Alright, so the first construction site to break ground was One Bloor West, originally christened The One. Located at the intersection of Toronto's Yonge and Bloor Streets, One Bloor West offers a blend of downtown buzz and uptown chic. Planned to reach a height of 308.6 meters or 1,013 feet, it'll be 10 meters taller than Canada's current tallest building, First Canadian Place, which stands at a not unimpressive 298 meters. First Canadian Place, located in Toronto's financial district, opened in the 1970s. It is named for Canada's first bank, the Bank of Montreal, and now serves as its global operational executive office. The building's journey to completion was far from smooth. Although developers Olympia and York acquired the land in 1972 after a major bidding war, they soon ran afoul of Mayor David Crombie's 1973 anti-skyscraper bylaw. This temporary measure capped new downtown buildings at 14 meters in height and a 3,700 meter square footprint, unless a permit could be wrestled from the city's council. It was a controversial move designed to slow the redevelopment of Toronto's heritage buildings at a pivotal moment in its evolution. The emergency stop entangled Olympia and York in lengthily planned negotiations. Eventually, they successfully argued that because the work had pre-existing approval and significant financial implications, it should be allowed to continue. An exemption was granted, and after an additional 2-year construction period, First Canadian Place was completed and fully occupied in 1975. At that time, it was the 6th tallest building in the world and the tallest building outside of New York or Chicago. The anti-skyscraper law that was ultimately dropped in 1975 as Toronto developed new height and density policies, effectively opening the floodgates for modern skyscraper projects. Now, after 50 years of dominating the Toronto skyline, First Canadian Place has finally had its day in the sun. And at this point, you're probably wondering, indeed I am, whoever wrote this, what about the CN Tower? It stands at 553.3 meters or 1,815 feet, making it the tallest structure by far in Canada. In fact, it's so stupendous that we have already made a video about it here on Megaprojects. If you'd like to learn more, do go and watch it after you've finished watching this video. Of course, I need that watch time. Alright, as I was saying, the key point about the CN Tower is its status as the tallest structure. However, because it doesn't have successive floors that can be occupied, the tower isn't classified as a high-rise building or a skyscraper. This is a small distinction, but it is important in the realm of urban architecture. So while the CN Tower is noteworthy as one of the world's tallest freestanding structures, it can't claim any titles for the tallest skyscraper. Thus, if One Bloor West is completed first, it will become Canada's tallest building, and for a time, the country's only super tall skyscraper. With that in mind, let's find out some more about it. Well, construction on the One began in October 2017 under the ownership of real estate developer Sam Mizrahi and his business partner Jenny Coco. Remember the name Mizrahi because you are absolutely going to hear it again today. Architects Foster & Partners, working with Core Architects, created an exoskeleton design featuring a visible latticework structure on the exterior. Imagine the Gherkin in London, which by the way was another Foster & Partners project, but with a whole lot more angles. The frame displays crisscross diagonal, horizontal and vertical lines in a champagne bronze tone, accented by horizontal banding at regular intervals. The ground floor boasts enormous laminated glass units, each measuring approximately 2,388 millimeters, that's 7 feet 10 inches wide, by 11,521 millimeters, or 37 feet 9 inches high, and each moved into place using a vacuum lifter with 60 suction mounts. Across 85 floors, the skyscraper will house restaurants, retail spaces, and a high-end hotel, along with 476 condominium suites. The tower's lower section will be dedicated to commercial floors, while the upper stories will be residential. According to condonow.com, moving into one of these units will cost you between $3.7 and $31.6 million. This is an ambitious project that should have been the clear winner in this race, but things haven't quite gone according to plan. In fact, there have been moments during the construction phase where Bloor West has been a near total flop. Cracks began to appear publicly in March 2022 when Apple Inc. filed a lawsuit against Mizrahi Developments. Although plans were afoot for the tech giant to open a 3-story glass-paneled Apple store in the skyscraper, constant delays became too much for Apple to bear. The company sued for $6.9 million in damages, citing a crucial missed deadline following 2 previous extensions. They'd simply had enough. Apple wanted out. In October 2023, the project faced its biggest setback when The One, as it was still known, went into receivership with a debt of $1.6 billion. Although a buyer might have allowed Mizrahi Developments to remain involved as the general contractor, Sam Mizrahi ultimately suffered a bitter blow by being removed from the project entirely. In response, Mizrahi released the following statement, quote, "After almost a decade of work on this landmark project, Mizrahi Developments is no longer the general contractor on The One in Toronto. The decision is based on a difference in vision. We pride ourselves on our commitment to high-quality luxury projects, and we are not willing to compromise on this. We have built our reputation on exceeding customer expectations, and our portfolio of developments reflects that." End quote. Now, the obvious tension straining this relationship reportedly boiled down to luxury versus profitability. As costs mounted, approximately 40% of the high-priced residential units remained unsold. The receiver, Alvarez & Marsal, consulted with a real estate broker who proposed redividing the unsold floor plates into smaller, more affordable units. However, this approach clashed with Mizrahi Development's vision, and sadly, their steadfast commitment to maintaining an ultra-luxury scale simply did not add up. And with that, Mizrahi was out. But that wasn't the end of the story. Although weary, The One still had a final burst of life left. In March 2024, Skygrid Construction assumed the role of general contractor, sparking hope that the project might yet be revived. 1 year later, in April 2025, it finally rose like a phoenix, reborn under a new name and leadership. With Alvarez & Marsal unable to secure a $1.2 billion buyer for the troubled skyscraper, Canadian developer Tridal stepped in with a proposal to partner with the project's lenders to see construction through. Work resumed on what was now rechristened Bloor West. And there's much more to say about this project, but before diving further, let's pause to consider its main competitor. Even if Bloor West is completed first, it's likely that this ambitious project will have the shortest reign as the tallest supertall building ever. Hot on its heels is another potentially taller skyscraper, Pinnacle International's Sky Tower. Sky Tower at Pinnacle 1 Yonge. Set just down the road on Toronto's famously long Yonge Street, the skyscraper's official name is Sky Tower at Pinnacle 1 Yonge. For ease, we'll just call it Sky Tower. Vancouver-based Pinnacle International, owned by Michael Ducotis, specializes in luxury residential builds and master-planned communities. The developer has already raised multiple towers along the Toronto skyline, including the Pinnacle Centre on Yonge Street and the PJ Condos on the John Street Cultural Corridor. Sky Tower was first proposed in 2013 by Hariri Pontarini Architects, with construction commencing in September 2020, almost 3 years after Bloor West. At that time, Sky Tower was slated to reach a planned height of 312.5 meters. Not tall enough, you say? Well, that figure later increased to 347 meters, making it almost 40 meters taller than its rival. And could it go even higher? Well, in March 2025, Pinnacle International sought permission to add an extra floor to the building, finalizing its height at a remarkable 351.4 meters across 106 floors. This adjustment renders it nearly 43 meters and 21 floors taller than Bloor West. And we'll revisit those multiple revisions and additions in just a moment. Constructed entirely from concrete, the tower features a sleek, gently tapering form with a glazed exterior. Vertical lines sweep upward to create a streamlined effect, and when viewed from above, the skyscraper's plans reveal a shape reminiscent of open shark jaws. Reflecting this design aesthetic, the interiors, conceived by Tanner Hill, will showcase smooth, sleek lines and reflective surfaces. Glass mirrors, quartz, and carefully designed lighting come together for an appearance that is slick, modern, and undeniably really shiny. The project is part of the multi-phase Pinnacle International development, which will eventually feature 3 residential towers on the site. Sky Tower is the second and tallest of the trio. However, those sky-high residences come with an equally sky-high price tag. If you want to snap up one of Sky Tower's 950 luxury apartments, it will set you back anywhere from $1.27 million to over $3 million. What will you get for that investment aside from a nice view? Well, there's a fitness center, a yoga studio, a games room, swimming pool, hot tub, outdoor terrace, provided you can face the fear of looking down, although for those kind of prices in this kind of building, it'd be weird if they didn't have them. It's an experience described in early marketing materials as the pinnacle of elevated living. As a tagline, it's an easy score, but the wordplay works especially well when you consider that standing on top of the Sky Tower would place you neatly within the eye line of the CN Tower's main observation deck. Beneath the tower, the 12 lowest levels will host a lavish 250-room Le Méridien hotel covering approximately 17,000 square meters. The space will include a business area, restaurant, and ballroom. Portfolio images, shared by Tannehill, reveal a lobby design characterized by crisp lines and sharp angles. Concentric squares are reflected in both the floor and ceiling, accented with black edging and centerpiece lighting. As Anson Kwok, Pinnacle's International VP of Sales and Marketing, has said, "We're building the tallest building in Canada, but it's also one of the largest communities around." The fight for height. We've examined each building project individually, but it's also important to consider how they relate to one another. There may not be any public slagging matches or open declarations of war, yet it's fair to say that a healthy level of competition has been present throughout their development. To see this, we only need to look at their respective planning journeys. Remember all those height amendments earlier for the Sky Tower? Well, there's a reason for them. But when plans for the one were first approved in 2016, its height was set at 308.6 meters, or 1,013 feet with 85 floors. 2 years later, Sky Tower's stated goal had risen to 312.5 meters, or 1,025 feet and 95 floors. This change gave it a small but significant lead of just under 4 meters. Not a huge difference in a project of this scale, but certainly enough to confidently claim the win. Then, in January 2021, Mizrahi Development submitted a request to the City Council to increase the one to 94 floors and 338.3 meters, or 1,110 feet, a whopping 30-meter hike that would have made it far taller than Sky Tower. The addendum submitted to the City of Toronto explained that increasing the height of the tower allows for a more balanced design. In response, Pinnacle International submitted another request in November 2022 to increase Sky Tower's height to 344.6 meters, or 1,130 feet, again positioning it in the lead among the clouds. And at this point, we're probably beginning to feel a bit sorry for the beleaguered city planners. Perhaps they'd reached their breaking point because Mizrahi's requested height increase from 2021 was denied. Further negotiations followed before the city finally approved a slightly lower revised height for the one, while allowing a taller height for Sky Tower, bringing its final approved height to 351.9 meters, or 1,154 feet and 106 floors. In the end, it seems fortune and bureaucracy favored the second contender. Perhaps Mizrahi would have persisted beyond this, but in any fight, someone has to be the first to back down. In this case, it all came down to the receivers. With the removal of Mizrahi Developments from the project, plans for the one's extra floors seem to have been scrapped, and One Bloor West is now set to achieve its original planned height of 308.6 meters. For the triumphant folks at Pinnacle International, being the tallest isn't just an architectural milestone, it's also deeply symbolic. You could say that being the tallest has always been Pinnacle's signature move. This tradition dates way back to 1998, when the company shifted its focus from low-rise structures toward building the largest building in Yaletown, Vancouver. At a modest 106.1 meters, or 348 feet, their inaugural Pinnacle project, imaginatively named The Pinnacle, was only the beginning, with further records being set in San Diego and across British Columbia. Despite this, Kwok has rather coyly denied that the prestige of being the tallest influenced the changes of Sky Tower's proposed height. In an interview on the building's Toronto Skyline podcast, he stated that, quote, "It was more about the skyline," further explaining all the buildings were in the 90s, so we didn't really want to repeat what happened 10 years ago in the entertainment district when every building was in the 40s. Eventually, they all looked the same. There was no uniqueness to the skyline. But this skyline is now undoubtedly changing. Although Sky Tower and One Bloor West are very much leading the way upward, Toronto has experienced a boom in new buildings that is already redrawing its vista. Interestingly, Toronto is one of only 2 North American cities to see an increase in crane count at the start of 2025, the other being New York City. Another project still under construction, architect Frank Gehry's former development, will add yet another supertall skyscraper, reaching the same impressive heights as One Bloor West. It's a whirlwind evolution with the city at its heart, promising a total transformation of Toronto's picture postcard view in the coming years. Although Trindle and Pinnacle International have been patiently slugging it out, they're not the only players in this particular game Monopoly. Tridel's president and CEO Jim Ritchie offered a philosophical perspective, commenting, "We are moving into a new era of development, marked by a level of ambition and engineering excellence not previously seen before. We're proud to be a part of the team developing a new landmark to Toronto's skyline and look forward to future buildings joining One Bloor West supertall status." Crossing the finish line. Amid the tussle over proposed heights, both major projects have extended well beyond their initial completion schedules. The one was originally scheduled for a grand opening in 2022. However, construction delays pushed that date first to 2023 and then to 2024. Now with the project rebranded as One Bloor West, Triddle has stated that interim occupancy will commence in spring 2027, with the final completion expected in early 2028. During its planning stage, Pinnacle International's Sky Tower was initially slated for completion in 2024. However, after post-variance changes and height increases, the completion date shifted to late 2025 and eventually 2026. This 2026 target appears to be the current goal, and if achieved, Sky Tower will finish both earlier and taller than its competitor. Nonetheless, it's important not to overlook the minor wins. The first victory between our two competitors was secured in late June 2025 when One Bloor West became the first of the two buildings to pass the 300-meter mark in construction, officially making it Canada's first super tall building. Still, the ultimate title of tallest completed skyscraper remains very much up for grabs. Given that it's already past the crucial 300-meter mark, it's unclear why One Bloor West remains so far from completion. However, with a 2-year scheduling lead in hand, Pinnacle International appears to have everything under control. When asked in an interview if Sky Tower would be the first to reach the top, Kwok parried, "I have a feeling we're going to probably occupy first. You know, they definitely started a little before us, but right now, we're growing pretty quickly." Thus, although One Bloor West is technically Canada's tallest skyscraper at present, it's unlikely to hold that title for very long. Thank you for watching.